In 1972, following the success of both Walt Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida, plans emerged to build a similar park in Europe. In 1983, Tokyo Disneyland opened and was an instant hit, welcoming approximately 10 million guests in its first year. The success of its foreign counterpart in Japan motivated the Walt Disney Company to continue to expand internationally. In 1984, the heads of Disney's theme park division, Dick Nunis and Jim Cora, reported to the company a list of over 1,200 possible locations across Europe, including locations in both Britain and Italy, as well as France and Spain, before settling on a location near the town of Marne-la-Vallée. In 1985, Disney's CEO at the time, Michael Eisner, signed the first letter of agreement with the French government for approximately 5,000 acres of land in Marne-la-Vallée, just under 43 kilometers from the center of Paris.
Welcome to Walt Disney Company. For the best.
The final contract was signed by the Walt Disney Company and the French government in 1987, and construction soon followed the following year in August of 1988 with a budget of $2.3 billion and was scheduled to open in 1996. The park was officially opened on 12th April 1992, opening 4 years earlier than scheduled. Visitors were warned of chaos on the roads and were told to expect high amounts of traffic. The French government expected 500,000 people in 90,000 cars to arrive on the first day. However, by midday the car park was half full with approximately 25,000 guests. Upon opening day, the park had 5,800 hotel rooms owned by Disney spread across 7 hotels. These included the Disneyland Hotel, Disney's Hotel New York, Disney's Newport Bay Club, Disney's Sequoia Lodge, Disney's Hotel Cheyenne, Disney's Hotel Santa Fe, and Disney's Davy Crockett Ranch. 29 restaurants were also included inside the park, with Disney's Hotel having a further 11. The park also opened with a Disney Village, which was Euro Disney's answer to Disney World's Disney Springs. Disney Village was a unique shopping experience that allowed anyone to enter, meaning you didn't have to have a park ticket to enter. Designed by Canadian architect Frank Gehry, Disney Village was home to several shops and restaurants and other experiences, such as Annette's Diner, a 50s-themed American diner, Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, the Disney Store, a sports bar, the Steakhouse, Billy Bob's, a cowboy-themed diner, and much more. It was estimated that 12,000 employees would be required to run Disneyland Paris. When hiring, Disney looked for cast members who could speak French and one other European language. Controversy soon followed when workers complained about Disney's appearance code for members of staff, which listed and regulated restrictions on the use of makeup, facial hair, tattoos, jewellery, and more. French labour unions protested against the appearance code, labelling it an attack on individual liberty. Others believed that Disney were being insensitive to French culture. Controversy continued when 2 months after the park opened, on the 28th of June, a group of French farmers blockaded Euro Disney in protest of farm policies that the US supported at the time. In May 1992, it was reported by The Hollywood Reporter that 3,000 workers had quit due to unacceptable working conditions. Up until 1995, nothing seemed to be going Euro Disney's way. A new Indiana Jones ride was opened at Euro Disney in 1993, but unfortunately, a few weeks after the ride opened, there was problems with the brakes, resulting in several injuries to guests. Not shortly after, there were rumours that the company was struggling financially with the park, and in 1994, Euro Disney were close to filing for bankruptcy, with Disney even going to the banks to gain some sort of financial support, and eventually threatening to shut down the park, leaving the banks with the land. By the end of summer of 1994, Euro Disney was $3 billion in debt. Towards the end of the year, on the 1st of October 1994, Euro Disney was officially renamed to Disneyland Paris. This is when we start to see a turnaround in the park and begin to see the park do well. On the 31st of May 1995, a new attraction opened, Space Mountain. The attraction cost $100 million and had a ceremony attended by Elton John and Buzz Aldrin. Because of the new attraction, Disneyland Paris saw its first quarterly profit of $35.3 million. By the end of the year, the theme park's attendance has climbed from 8.8 million to 10.7 million, and hotel occupancy had climbed from 60% to 68.5%. By 1996, the Eurostar, the European train service, had announced it would run directly to the park, making it more accessible for guests, and not shortly after, Planet Hollywood had opened in Disney Village. In 2001, Disneyland Paris had reported they had hit the 100 million guest mark, and the following year, in March of 2002, the park was renamed to Disneyland Resort Paris. That same year, the Walt Disney Studios Park opened alongside Disneyland Resort Paris, and by March 2004, the Walt Disney Company had agreed to write off all the debt that Euro Disney owed to the Walt Disney Company. In under 15 years, in 2005, the Disneyland Resort Paris had become the #1 tourist destination in Europe, outselling the Eiffel Tower. Buzz Lightyear's Laser Blast opened the next year in 2006, a popular ride that sees guests spin and shoot their way through the galaxy as they help Buzz Lightyear to defeat Zurg. The design of the ride allowed 2 people to a cart, with a joystick that enabled the passenger to spin the ride around a full 360 degrees clockwise and anti-clockwise. The carts also had a laser gun as well, with a digital scoreboard in the middle to tell you your score as you went through the ride shooting aliens. In 2007, Toon Studios opened within Walt Disney Studios Park. The concept itself was to be a spin-off of Mickey's Toontown. The concept creator was John Lasseter, the director of several Pixar films such as Toy Story, Bug's Life, and Cars. 2011 saw the number of guests who had visited the French parks reach a record-breaking $250 million. As we go into 2012, we reach the park's 20th anniversary. A study done by the Interministerial Delegation reviewing Disneyland Paris' contribution to the French economy was released. It found that it had generated €37 billion in tourism-related revenues over 20 years, supports on average 55,000 jobs in France annually, and that one job at Disneyland Paris generates nearly 3 jobs elsewhere in France. In 2015, the world came together for the Paris attacks in November 2015. For the first time in the resort's history, both the Disneyland Park and the Walt Disneyland Studios Park closed from the 14th to the 17th of November as a part of France's National Days of Mourning. 2 years later, in 2017, was the 25th anniversary of the park. In 2018, it was announced by Disney CEO Bob Iger that the Walt Disney Company would invest £2 billion into the Disneyland Resort, and that the Disneyland Studio Park would be expanded into 3 new areas based upon Marvel, Star Wars, and Frozen. The first phase of expansion is set to be complete by 2021. As for 2019, we saw both Armageddon and the Rock 'n' Roller Coaster close to make room for the expansion. And in 2018, we saw over 15.1 million guests attend Disneyland Paris. It's crazy to think that a theme park that was $3 billion in debt 2 years after it opened somehow managed to stay open and expand over 25 years later, welcoming in over 320 million people. Thank you very much for joining me as we take a brief look through Euros of Disney's 27-year history. If you have any feedback, please leave it below, as all feedback is appreciated as it helps me to improve content. If you have any suggestions or topics to cover, please leave it down below. Thank you very much for joining me on my very first video, and I'll see you all next time.